This is Comics from the Ark. Devin and Jeff coming to you for the week of August 31st, discussing this week's releases of our choosing. And when Devin gets it together, he'll join me in this conversation.
I was already over here, man. You seem to be flowing well, man. I was gonna let you do your thing.
It's what I do. So
You were feeling the universe, weren't you?
one with. I know that we're now less than a week out from Sam Jones being here.
Yep. Sunday. Sorry, I've been wanting to say that all day. Right? Oh man. Kind of want to do like an old school commercial like that, you know. But yeah, that's going to be a Sunday. We're from 11 to 5 here at the store itself.
Second Impressions in Walnut, Iowa.
Yeah. Car show going on the same day. It should be a good time pretty much for everybody. I know that we've seen a lot of response to him coming out here because I guess it's been quite a while since he hit the Midwest. So
Awesome.
yeah.
And not to put any pressure on people, but the more people that turn out, the greater the likelihood that we will get more people out in the future.
Yeah.
Just throwing it out there.
Yeah. Attendance equals future signings. Yeah, no, it's not quite that bad, but I'm going to try to keep doing these no matter what, to be quite honest, because let's face it, it's
fun and it's exciting, and it reignites the fandom, you know.
It's a rush.
It is. You know, if I had the opportunity to meet some people, you know, I just went up to a show up in Sioux Falls, and although I didn't get to talk to him for very long, I did get to talk to Alan Oppenheimer, who was the voice of Skeletor, Man-at-Arms, Falcor from the Never-Ending Story, and it was really exciting to meet him. And then I even watched a panel with him and Paige O'Hara, who was the voice of Belle in Beauty and the Beast.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say that I was not prepared for this 80-year-old man to go, you know, I've done Broadway and I've done movies and I've done TV shows. The only thing I haven't done is porn. I was just like dumbfounded. I'm sitting in the front row like, did he just say that? That's amazing. You know, because, you know, back then I didn't think of it as a person reading a script or doing anything. You know, I just figured that he went home to Snake Mountain and, you know, that he waited until the next cartoon.
Yeah, well, it's the same way that if you, Bob Saget, if you watch, he's Bob Saget, right? The Loving Dad.
Yeah, off of Full House.
Yeah,
Yes.
Full House. That's what I was searching for, was Full House. But you ever seen a stand-up?
Yeah. Or Half-Baked.
Or Half-Baked, yeah. He gets pretty straight raunchy with that stuff. It's like, you're like, Mr. Tanner, you know?
Yeah. And it's always eye-opening when you... Well, hell, you know, I remember as a kid, I ran into my kindergarten teacher. She had a second job at a clothing store in town.
Yeah.
And I walked in, and I'm like, well, what are you doing here, you know? Like, I was just waiting for her to, like, you know, like she, at the end of the school day, she just locks herself in the broom closet until the next day of school. You know, these are real people.
Oh, it's better than if you look at the poll and see the same thing.
Mrs. Spear, what's going on? All right, here's the
We'll just let that one roll right on by.
God rest her soul. Anyway. But anyway, yeah, these experiences, you know, they may not be the biggest names, or even, you know, in something, you know, some of these people that I've met haven't had a paying gig in a while, but for the people that was your childhood, it knows no time. You know, the moment you see them, the moment you hear them, it takes you back and it rejuvenates you. It makes you feel like you're a kid again. It gives you that rush, and it's just an amazing feeling.
Yeah. Well, and Well, actually, that works really good with talking about the book I have this week, which is Grommets. Came out with the next issue. I'll be honest with you, I really can't get enough of this series. It's not some like hard hitting like just out there or some big monsters or superheroes or horror or anything. It is literally the life of this mid '80s skating kid, and it's the way they're doing the art, the coloration, everything that's happening with this book. It just takes you right back to that time. Um, this one's wonderful because I mean it starts out, and you're thinking that after the end of the last one where they were skating with the gens and things had gone great, and then they kind of cut with the whatever happened to the rent-a-cop guy type thing.
Right.
We cut into the beginning of this one with the gens and I think it was both of them actually on the beach with them. And at one point, basically they're like they all stand up and they're like, "Oh, you got to tell us which one of us has the better boobs," and like just like flashes them, right? And it immediately cuts to him being woken up by his grandfather spraying him down with a hose like in his bedroom.
Okay. I was gonna say your childhood was way different from mine, but that I can see happen. There we go. That's more in line.
Yeah, and so right off the bat, they're setting the tone that these are everyday kids that they have their fantasies, but they also are they're having a good time, but they're also trying to balance that with growing up and being able to learn how to navigate society in general, and
figure out who they are.
Exactly. And when you're at this age and in the mid '80s, we had your pretty hard great starts to like your punk bands and stuff that had it hit, and we had some really great stuff going on there. We had like the Dead Milkmen and things like that, and there's imagery in this that bring you back to that type of stuff. And it's really kind of cool to see because the three that they really focus on in this issue, because once you get past him getting woke up and they meet up, then they meet up with a third guy that's like, what, maybe we should go ahead and cut for the day, but it was it's the classic green mohawk, and they end up cutting and getting high as crap, basically, and then hitting the arcade. And I'm sitting there watching this, and I'm like, the only thing that was different for me was, I was grabbing myself some beers and then hitting the arcades.
Yeah, we definitely had different childhoods.
But yeah, like I said, and then like you go back to it. So you got the punk kid, you got the pretty boy, and then you got the kind of misunderstood kid that is being raised by the grandparents because mom's abandoned because she thinks he's too much of a slacker or whatever. It's almost the John from Breakfast Club type feel, like pre-high school version of, or early high school version of. And yet again, they bring the right colors to it. There's one part where he gets his uniform for his taco job thrown at him, and let me tell you that seeing that gold and brown on that shirt, it brought back memories. Right?
I could hear the bell.
Exactly. That's why I didn't say the name, because I was like, as soon as I say this, you're gonna know what I'm talking about.
Yep. Well, I remember the job application you showed me last time.
Yeah.
And that was so spot on. The lettering and the format and everything. It was just like, holy cow,
And so, yet again, I mean, it was just a life in the day. And this life in the day was, they skipped for the day, and there was some ramifications with, the mom that he's trying to move back in with sees them as she drives by, and just kind of has that disgusted look like, yep, you're just going to stay with your grandpa, and
I'm not going to bother.
like that. Yeah. And so, there's just a lot of small things that happen that kind of build the characters going forward, but it's nothing that these are not earth-shattering moments. They're just character-defining moments that probably all of us overlooked, when we were in the heat of the moment, and we probably don't even realize where we picked up a character trait, but if you traced it back, it would go back to something simple like what they're talking about here.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Inside Out,
Yeah.
yeah,
Herman's head.
you you build core memories off of
Yeah.
just things that happen, and it doesn't have to be earth shattering. It doesn't have to be, anything that's so epic that people are like, "Oh my God, tell me that story." It could honestly be something very mundane, but it could be very prominent or meaningful or impactful.
I just can't deal with that movie, man. I just can't. It's Bing Bong, man. It's just not right.
Well, I'm sure if you look back at your childhood, there's going to be stuff where you're like, "Oh my God, I can't believe I did that," or,
But no, but if you look back at your childhood, if you don't remember something because it sacrificed itself for the betterment of your emotional I mean, the Bing Bong thing was just devastating.
All right. I'll tell you now, if that devastated you,
I ain't seeing the second one.
the second one wasn't as good. Do not watch the movie If Imaginary Friends with Ryan Reynolds.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not.
That's the equivalent of taking a puppy, putting a gun, and just bam.
I don't know though, because I've heard enough about it from one of my daughters wanted to, kind of fill me in, and then Michelle, I guess, had some information on it as well, and they said it has, more of a childlike feel of but it's Drop Dead Fred. It's not that the imaginary goes away; it just has to go absorb back in.
I'm not going to spoil any parts of that movie, but I will say I left that movie theater with such a sore throat from bottling it, because I'm not going during the movie. I'm not cool, but I'm not that lame. And
that
I
was the first 5 minutes of Lion King for me.
I choked it down and I held it in check for the entire movie, and my God, that was painful to do. There were things in there that you had those unlocked memories where it just popped up and you're like, "Oh my God, I remember something like that. That reminds me of my childhood, or such and such happened." And then it's like, "Oh my God, that reminds me of such," and then, not spoiling, but there's a moment where one of the grown-up kids had this pivotal moment.
Yeah.
And I about lost my shit right there. I just like choking it back. I locked it down, and I'm just like,
see, I couldn't do that. There was one movie that there was no stopping it. 5 minutes into The Lion King, sitting there with my daughters and my wife, and all of a sudden Simba is held up. The sun hits everything just right. Oh my God, I was like, I might as well have just seen every kitten in the world punished simultaneously. Like, the tears were just unstoppable. I was like, okay, this is crazy. But anyway, my point being, not even that. It's just I was giggling about that one. But if you look at Drop Dead Fred, it kind of has the same type of thing going on throughout the movie. I mean, take a look at the fact that she's making a decision she knows it actually physically injures Fred to take the pill, and yet she still does. Things like that.
You intentionally hurt someone that you care about and that cares about you.
Yeah. Yeah. To get what you think you want.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Drop Dead Fred was a lot more of a movie than people ever allowed it to be.
Yeah. Don't watch Imaginary Friends, because you're not You're not prepared.
I'm not ready for that kind
You're
of.
not. Oh my god. But on that note, speaking of self-inflicted pain, I read X Force this week, and I'm trying to do all the new the new mutant titles that are coming out.
That already came out or is coming out.
It for this week, it's going to be X Force #1.
But you said the New Mutants.
Anyway, X Force #1, new parameters, new mission is to preventatively act to stop world-affecting crises.
Yeah.
The preventative type stuff.
That was well done, by the way, getting through that without saying the phrase again. Congratulations.
Thank you. The team for this is made up of Forge and Sage as kind of the thinkers, the problem solvers, the people who could analyze something, find a fault, and a resolution. I can appreciate that. And then you have your multi-purpose powers of telepathy and telekinesis in the form of Captain Britain and Ascani, who is Rachel Summers or Gray, depending on what she's going by. And then they are bringing in 2 other characters. Surge, who was in New X-Men back in the 2010 era, and a brand new character, Box, whom we haven't seen much of. Not Box, Tank.
I was gonna say like BOX. Like, what's his power? He becomes a cardboard box.
No, they already had a Box. He was a member of Alpha Flight. I shit you not, man.
Was he just a box?
No, he was a robot suit that a guy piloted.
Okay, see, if you're gonna call somebody box, man, you better go cardboard or corrugated or something like that. In general.
Anyway, so you would think that with these thinkers and telekinesis, that it's a multifunctional type thing that would be something that could be general enough that you could use for any type of problem. However, the story felt like a poorly written Star Trek episode. It's just, you had your problem, you had your conversing about it, and then you had your solution.
Did the Argent lead save it?
The art was all right. If you did a more militaristic version of Star Trek and then had someone write a fanfic about it, that's what this kind of felt like for me. They
kind of Battlestar Galactica.
Kind of. There were flashbacks to him recruiting people for the team, and then they would introduce the character on the team, and I felt that it was an unnecessary back and forth. And ultimately, they had a guest appearance by a character that's not a part of the team, but yet he was the person that actually saved the day. So we have a problem. We have this solution team, and instead they bring someone else in to be the solution.
So issue 1, the team can't handle its own problem, and they have to bring in a ringer. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, good to hear. It
also has retreaded.
Go Gadget Forge.
We have Forge.
It works, doesn't it?
And we have Sage, and they even bring up the fact that before she was Sage, she was Tessa of the Hellfire Club, and they had her kind of downgraded where she needed moments to process. She would actually I'm thinking, I'm processing. There were a lot of instances where she needed a moment to calculate and what have you. And Forge went through a process to enhance his power so that he could think on larger terms. And I didn't quite agree with how they did it, how it was executed. Realistically, the final product, I wasn't impressed. It was very much a standalone issue. There was no overreaching story arc where it felt like the next issue was going to continue a story. it kind of feels more episodic, and like each issue can easily be chucked.
Okay.
So all in all, I'm not wowed yet. Of the new releases that they've had for the Marvel Mutants, this has been the poorest faring so far.
Well, you haven't exactly been 100% impressed necessarily.
I really liked NYX and the social ramifications.
Okay, well, I was talking prior to that one. Like, I think the X-Men you were a little bit critical of.
More so, but I see promise there because they did a self-contained story, and then there's a overreaching arc.
Yeah.
And honestly, the characters they picked for that team is a lot more enjoyable because a lot of these characters are kind of your C-level characters where people are going to wonder who they are or why I should care. I haven't been a huge fan of the relationship between Rachel and Betsy. I feel like it was kind of forced upon us, especially given that previous history they did not show same-sex interest. Yeah, it feels like they're pandering to a group now. So all in all,
interesting week to bring that one up.
What's that?
Interesting week to bring that one up.
All in all, if I were trying to build a generic problem-solving team, yeah, I can agree with Sage and Forge and maybe one of the telepathic telekinetics. But I would also bring in like a strong person, whether it's Strong Guy or Colossus or somebody with super strength. You would want to have kind of the Swiss Army knife approach, where you have someone for each type of problem that you could have.
I don't know. I think if you ever just did like 5 technopaths, it'd be perfect.
But then if you had a technopath and something's wrong with the Earth, wouldn't you want like a geomorph for it?
No, because you just build a really big ray gun that would fix the problem.
Honestly, with this type of...
Just saying.
With this story arc, where...
Ray guns fix everything.
Where you're trying to look at all sorts of problems that could arise, that could threaten the Earth, I think a more...
that could be fixed with ray guns.
Like shooting your co-host.
See?
/ boss.
Yet again, ray gun.
Ray. But like the TV, the cartoon Mask, or Justice League Task Force, those I really found fascinating as a child, where each mission you built your team for the need that you had. There are enough X-Men, there are enough mutants where you could say, okay, well, we have this Earth opening up in Mother Russia issue that involves such and such bad guy. We're going to bring in Colossus because he's our Russian expert. We're going to bring in Richter because he can deal with, the shifting of the Earth, and maybe bring someone in that specializes with that villain.
Somebody that builds a ray gun, somebody that builds a ray gun, somebody that builds a ray gun. I stand by my technopath thing here.
So there are different philosophies on the approach for this title. However, I still stand by the fact that if you're going to have a generic team, have a little bit of versatility so that you can cover any basis. Because not everything, you may not have the resources to build the appropriate ray gun if you're in the moment.
Oh, but you're a technopath, so you would be able to with anything that you had around you. You're like
using this bamboo and a banana to fire lasers.
Completely plausible, man.
Either have a generic enough team or build your team to the crises parameters. So far, I wasn't impressed. These characters have a history and personalities, and I don't feel like they were exactly addressed correctly. Some of the characters were well handled. Other ones, it could have been any other person inserted in here generically.
How are they getting beaten, just out of curiosity?
How are they getting beaten?
Yeah, remember you said they were getting beaten, they had to call in a ringer?
So, it was a blob-like monster that could break off into pieces.
Okay.
And it could replicate and heal itself.
Okay.
And they were not able to contain it. And so they brought in Deadpool, who actually made the reference movie tie-in, because, Deadpool and Wolverine now in theaters. And they actually threw Deadpool into the main monster's mouth. And Forge explained that Wade's cancer was the solution because this main entity was getting sick digesting Deadpool, and the cancer was making it sick and killing it off. And over the course of 3 days, it would finally kill the monster. And in that time, Deadpool would just keep healing and regenerating. So he'll be fine. Don't worry about Deadpool. He'll be fine. But it'll take 3 days for this monster to finally keel over. But it's the cancer in Deadpool that was going to be the solution. Instead of just building a giant microwave and giving the monster its own cancer. Or with a ray gun. My cancer plasma gun.
I guess technically it would have been a rail gun at that point. They had fired a Deadpool into it.
No, they brought in the new character Tank, and they basically did a fastball special. And again, if you're going to do a fastball special, of course we make a brand new character to use instead of, Colossus. Which is one of my gripes for these new titles, is the fact that we have thousands of mutants. Why are we introducing more when there are perfectly good ones that you could use?
Okay. I see where you're going, but real quick here, stepping backwards again. The ray gun. No, I'm just kidding. The blob thing, I can't wrap my head around how bad that writing had to have been to come up with, this is the best answer to this.
Well, and
And with Forge on the team. Ray gun.
Like I said, it was a poorly written Star Trek plot solved by a generic task force. We're brought in because we're a militaristic problem-solving unit, and the best we could come up with is hiring Deadpool. They didn't even just appeal to his, hero characteristics. They said, we will pay you X amount of dollars to help us out, and then they threw him inside a blob. Now, the other thing, by bringing that up, is that Forge was like, yep, here's X amount of millions of dollars for you to do this job. Where is Forge getting this money?
Selling ray guns?
I guess. Military contracts. So, all in all, I wasn't thoroughly impressed.
Street ray guns make you a lot more money.
Once you file off the serial number.
Yeah.
So,
you just can't prove which Forge it came from.
Of the new releases of the Mutant Universe, this has been the weakest one so far. And
that doesn't sound good.
No. That's why I'm saying it's not good. Now then, it could be that the next issue is phenomenal, and I will read it regardless, because damn my OCD. But I will say that...
It's obviously going to be 72 hours later.
Well, and also, I've noticed that with all the titles that they have been releasing, they've been going back to the title font that they used in the 90s. Like for X-Force, we have the big X and then the telescoping force coming off of it. And I'm not sure if they're trying to appeal to a sense of nostalgia, because this is obviously not the team that was around in the 90s, or even the mission parameters or the concept behind. I will say that everybody had proportionally sized feet.
Everything is running nostalgia right now. I mean, really.
Right.
I mean, take a look at half your variant covers currently, and what they
half your variant covers. Hell, look at the movies that are coming out. We have another Ghostbusters movie, and if it's not a sequel of something, it's a knockoff or a tie-in or something reminiscent of. Before too long, we have another season of Cobra Kai. Before too long, Stranger Things, set in the 80s, is going to be wrapping up. And all of these things aren't...
Cobra Kai really, man, it got a little bit nutty last season.
Well, that and the fact that, again, they're trying to cash in on the nostalgia. They brought in Elizabeth Shue.
Well,
And
well, the big thing with that last season that just got really nutty was with the Terry Silver character coming back, and man, it went to some like areas that it was like, holy crap, man. How do you save your business after that? You guys aren't thinking this through very well.
But again, it's not about well thought out, well scripted. We're now trying to cash in. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
is there a character that we haven't exploited yet? You know, we haven't brought in Hilary Swank yet. Is she going to pop up at some point in
Oh
time?
yeah, I think they've already said that that's going to happen because
I rest my case.
if you look at it season by season going through,
They're following the
Cobra
line of
Kai,
the movies.
Yeah, they're following the movies. It's following the septuple 6 of them, right?
3, and then they had the next Karate Kid. Are we counting the Jackie Chan?
Yeah.
So I think we're at 5 or 6.
Okay, so either a penta-G or a sextuple G.
Say that 3 times fast.
No, once was pretty solid for me there. I'm proud of myself, and I'm just going to move on with life now.
that. 3 times fast. Anyway, so right now, this isn't the best title. I will continue to read it because if nothing else, it's going to be resource material, and it's better than The Island because it's not on the island. And,
Hey, well, you got to have some go-tos for, when there's the next toilet paper shortage.
yes. And who knows, this new character Tank may take off and be the next Deadpool, when somebody with talent actually takes over and makes the character good. But this will be the first appearance.
Yeah. Well, and if you, like you were saying, the nostalgia thing, and it really is there because you take a look at what the big crossover is right now. Right? And I think I even brought this up last week. You got that Blood Hunt thing going on. It's all Blade based and stuff like that. Batman 89's running around, things like that. Like you were saying, you got your Stranger Things coming up, things along those lines.
Well, and we just got done with the first season of X-Men 97. They had a tie-in comic book. I know that they have been moving toys on that line. There have been so many things where we can't come up with material to make you feel good on our own. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to dig up things that used to make you feel good, and we're going to represent it.
Yeah. Well, and to be honest with you, I'm definitely a big Stranger Things fan as far as, like, yes, they're taking back to that nostalgia, but at the same time, they're doing it in such a way that they're not it's not like they're, like, where we get in the new Twister movie, but it's not like they're trying to retell or tell the next story or anything. It's just like, here, have a crappy remake.
Well, and after that 70s show came out, they had a short run series called that 80s show. Yeah. And the humor on that show is more based on our knowledge of what happened. Someone would come out and like, I just bought the latest cassette tape. Nothing's going to top this. And insert canned laughter because everybody knows, we moved on to CDs and streaming and what have you. Yeah, it was a lot of humor based on future knowledge. And that didn't work. That's why it was a short-lived show. But when they were interviewing the Duffer Brothers about Stranger Things, part of the reason why they said it in the 80s is because back in the 80s, we didn't have as much access to cell phones. There wasn't an internet. They were trying to isolate it so that you could just hop online and either call the cavalry real quick,
yeah,
or look up what to do in this case. you were left to your wits, and this was the most recent time that you could do that without people stepping in and saying, well, in the 90s you had blah blah blah, and you can look it up or you can do whatever. They
Yeah.
were trying to make it a challenge by restricting people's resources.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And in general, I mean, it really does work, and I'm excited to see where it goes. And the other side for me is, obviously I've been a gamer most of my life as well, so I mean it taps into that. Then of course there's the Eddie problem.
Not a problem anymore. He's not in the way.
It's just so not right. Every time there's a good Eddie, they kill him off.
With
One,
ray gun.
no, actually, one of them, I think, no, the first one was axed. The ray gun came later in the movie when Rocky got killed.
Okay.
That was the first Eddie that was just it was sad to see that death happen. But I mean, he did. He filled a lot of people, with his juiciness. So I mean,
Well, and the other thing about either Grommets or Stranger Things is that
yeah,
if you cast the net wide, if you have a wide pool to draw from as far as personality traits and interests, somebody's going to look at one character or another and say, hey, that was me at that time. Or, hey, I remember I had a friend like that. Or
yeah,
if you cast it out wide enough, you're going to get enough people going, hey, this was me and that was that.
yeah.
And you're going to catch more people that way.
Yeah, yeah, and you're absolutely right about that, and it's nice to see this nostalgia. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, it kind of hurts because it's like, holy crap, how old am I again?
I just got done referencing a comic book that is one of my favorite done-in-one issues, and I was showing Michelle, and I looked at the date, and I realized that comic came out 20 years ago.
Yeah,
And I felt incredibly old because at that time, I felt like I was maybe not the most long-term reader, but I felt that I was significantly into the hobby enough that I could be considered an authority on certain things. And that was 20 years ago.
yeah. Well, it's kind of like when my daughter my youngest daughter, who is 21 right now, about a year and a half ago, we found one of my old boxes of shirts from when I was in high school and college, and it included some of my concert shirts and stuff, up to and including my long sleeve Beastie Boys License to Ill tour shirt that has the 747 down the sleeves and the whole nine yards. I mean, I swear to God, she channeled what was it, Wesley Snipes on Tu Wong Fu when they found the attic in the store. She was like, I think she was running around the house screaming with shirts for a little bit. It was just like, oh, this hurts. This hurts so much. So
vintage shirts, yes.
No, not vintage, retro.
Retro.
Apparently I'm retro now.
I don't know.
I'm over 40, so I'm on Facebook too.
Not Instagram.
Never
Although we
let
are
that
now
one
on
go.
Instagram.
Yeah,
Like hip people.
I could make a reel.
Dear God. Well, on that note, it's getting late and it's time for me to go to bed because I'm an old man.
I don't have to work tomorrow, so whatever.
On that note, thank you for tuning in, and hopefully next time we tune in, we'll tell you about all the great Sam Jones stories that we have and have so much more to talk about, and hopefully, in my case, a better book to read.
Yeah, no kidding, because you haven't had a whole lot of love recently with it, so
It's very much a hit or miss environment right now.
yeah, I haven't. Most of my books have been pretty decent lately coming out of the independent world. It seems like Marvel. It depends on what title you're in. Even then, I mean, you take a look at, Immortal Thor, and there was sections of it I loved, and now we're back to another part. I'm like, eh. So anyway, We're time to go.
Time to go. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll hope to hear from you again next time. Thank you.